Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff, and today's show is going to be a little bit different because today with us we have an award-winning writer. Her name is Geraldine Giomblanco, and she's written a book about her life. Very interesting. In addition, Geraldine also is a life coach and a very fascinating woman. Geraldine, thank you very much for joining us today on Successful Philanthropy. And Geraldine, what is the name of your book? And can you tell our readers in a few minutes what it's all about?
Certainly. Thank you for having me, Jean. It's really been a pleasure to be here at LTV, and they've been very gracious to me. We've done an audiobook as well and recorded it here. But the name of the book is called Geraldina and the Compass Rose. And there is a story behind the title.
And it's about you, correct?
It is about me. It's about a woman whose journey took her 30 years to find the love of her life. And 30 years is a long time. So I met
So you mean you got married at 30?
Oh, no, right, exactly. Thank you. No, at 50, actually.
Uh-huh.
So I met my husband at 50 years old. But the story really takes you through the idea that I had faith, and I knew that there was a plan for my life. And when I had some stumbles and falls and things, my faith is what really carried me through. But I got that faith from my grandmother, and that's where the title of the book comes from. Her name was Rosaria, and she was, quite the woman. She came from Italy over here. Settled in Bridgeport, Connecticut initially, and then moved to the Bronx, and her name was Rosaria Gentile, or Gentile, Gentile. But in the book, the idea, the compass rose, is an actual navigation sign. And it comes full circle that my grandmother was like my guide through life. And something miraculous happens in the story. And really, that's what jolted me to write the book.
Yes, but before we hear more about the book, I want to talk a little bit about the situation with marriage. It seems that less and less people are getting married today, and to me that's fine. We have same-sex marriage, we have all sorts of different marriages, and personally you do what you want to do. But it seems to me that people, every year there are maybe fewer and fewer marriages, and it seems to be that it's getting harder and harder for people to find the right person. And I'm wondering, you're a life coach. What do you think? Is it that women today and men are fussier, or they just don't want to have the responsibility of having a partner and maybe of having a family? What are your thoughts on this?
That's a great question, Gina. I wasn't asked that one before. But honestly, for me, it was always something that I expected would happen. And I think it comes generational. You know, we came from a place where back in the 50s and my parents' generation, right, they got married young, they had children. The generations stayed next to each other. And I think over time, it's just kind of dissolving. I think it seems that more people have spread out throughout the world. It's a global place now. I mean, I think before it was sought out to be different. In the case of what I see when I'm coaching other people, it seems like everybody still wants to be with somebody. That love really is a center point. And what I like to bring out in the book, that I believe in love, and I believe that brings people together. And it brings them together of all ages, and it doesn't really matter race or religion or anything of that nature. And I think people want to be loved. So for me, love in a marriage was the ultimate, because I'm Catholic and I was brought up that way. But for other people, it's different. And
well, I think all religions, the idea of love is something important in all religions, whether you're Catholic or Jewish or Islamic or a Buddhist. And people need each other and want to be together. And it's hard sometimes to find the right partner, I think. And I guess you in the book describe some of the relationships you went through with different men. I did read some of the book. I confess I didn't have enough time before this interview to read the entire book.
That's okay.
But there was one very interesting episode, and it seemed like it was rather heartbreaking with one man. And from one man, you had another beautiful relationship that seemed to fall apart because of maybe the person wasn't the right person. And as I look back on my life, I see the same thing. I had, before I got married, and I've been married a long time, many relationships, and until I found the right one, well, I wasn't getting married. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what you describe in the book, because I think it's really very important to our women and our men and young people reading and watching this program to learn about your journey so that they will also have hope.
Thank you. So I think it starts out as something that we've been all given a personality, special gifts, something that resonates deep inside. I want to call it a soulful person, that we all have something of that nature in us. And so as a very young little girl, I always loved to love. And I felt like, regardless if it was my grandmother or my parents or a dog, you know, animals or the nature. And what I take you throughout the book is this little girl who's growing up, and she's learning through experience. And we all can say that now, right? The older and wiser we get. But I think there was also this drive and purpose. Like I knew that I was always going to do something big, you know, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. So I kept steadfast in my career. And when I felt it was time to move on, I wasn't going to let anybody stop me. So I had this moxie in me, you know, and I share stories of that. But I also share stories of this compassion that I have for people. And in my relationships, I just was always trusting, thinking that it was going to lead to the right thing, which ultimately for me would be to have my own family and to have children and to be with the one I love. And it just didn't happen. So I'm 20. That's my grandmothers would say, do you have a boyfriend? You know, are you getting close to getting married or something? And so I had this expectation. I was fortunate it wasn't pressured. Like, in other words, there was something wrong with me in my family. You know, why didn't I get married at 20? But there was that underlining pressure that I felt. Then came 30s, and then something very magical happened to me in my 30s. I met a man in an airport who kind of gave me some intuitive message.
And what did he say?
He said 3 things that were pretty profound. One was never lose the little girl in me. And
Yes.
to know me is that I'm very playful and I'm loving in that innocent way. Number 2 was I'm going to receive a gift. And the way he spoke to me, it felt like the gift wasn't maybe necessarily a material gift. Although I would like to think that maybe that would have been the case.
A spiritual gift.
It was a spiritual gift of something that I was either going to give or get. And he explained it through a story of that his mother had this ability to receive gifts humbly, you know, at Christmas time. And I felt like I was going to receive a gift, and I wanted to stay humble in that moment. And then the most important thing, and really, like I said earlier, what caused me to stop and write the book was that he told me that my grandmother had a message for me. Now, my grandmother was deceased already 2 years. So when I heard that, I felt it, and he even, acknowledged it, that she was close to me. Even though she was gone, she will always be very close to me. So I went home that day after I was stuck in an airport, and I met the stranger, like I said. And when I went home, I wrote it all down because I knew it was monumental. It was something very important for me.
Well, this man touched your heart.
I did, and I wrote down that he was my guardian angel and that my grandmother sent him. And in my diary or journal, whatever you want to call it, I mean, it was, it was 1995 in June. And I said, I met my guardian angel, and guess who sent him? Rosaria Gentili. And 25 years later, the message came through that he said, my grandmother had a message for me. And it has to do with
And what was that message?
Well, it was to say that my husband, Mark Giomblanco, was the right one, and it was time. And all that time, I never lost hope or faith, because we made the meatballs, we said the rosary, we did a lot of praying together. And in the hard times, I didn't I didn't falter. That's what gave me the strength to move forward. And in my business career, because it gave me the guts to move forward. Because if I felt that I was being led, that intuition, then I took the chances. And it excelled me in my job. So,
well, that's very nice. So I think this man and then your grandmother and never giving up, I think, is a message maybe that comes through in this book, where a lot of people, they keep looking year after year for the right person, and it's very difficult to find the right person for many, many people. So many people, they just don't end up getting married, and you very much wanted to be married, but you wanted to be married to the right person. And so you never gave up. And I think what I'm hearing is that it's a book of hope.
It is.
And you want to encourage others never to give up and to always have hope. And what a beautiful story. And how long have you been married now?
4 years. We were married in August of 2016. It took me 2.5 years to write the book.
And I read parts, and I thought it was very well written. Did you have a ghostwriter?
I had some people help me, absolutely.
Yes.
We sat down. So I did a lot of the writing, and really where they came into play was helping me put it into the story format. And like I said in the very beginning, I always saw this as a movie or a visual story.
And I understand you have someone writing a screenplay for the
Yes,
for the
we're
book,
really excited.
for a movie, I mean.
Yes, we have a producer, we have directors, we have a lot of people very interested right now that will collaborate and fine-tune it, and then we'll put it out to market. So it'll be independent at this time, unless Hollywood wants to pick it up, of course.
Well, that's exciting. And now, you know, this show is about philanthropy and how we do things in our lives. We either volunteer, or even acts of kindness can be conceived of as philanthropy, and then how we might give. And so I'm assuming through the writing of this book that you are giving a gift, the gift of you and the gift of your story to help other people. And I understand your husband you both have a small yacht, and that you take couples out. I don't know if this is couple therapy or, but it's a very interesting business.
The Geraldina charters, you picked up on that. We've kind of put that aside for now because of the book and the movie and all of that other. But yes, my initial intention, along with the book, was to bring people out on the water where they feel safe and secure, and they have the negative ions, which makes them relax, to talk about where they want to take their life. So the life coaching and the planning was really a venue, having the yacht and the boat and bringing people out there, as opposed to putting somebody in an office or sitting, inside of a retreat center or something like that. It's another venue, and
it's a very peaceful place, the sea. I mean, it can be a very tumultuous place if you're in the middle of a storm, but when it's a beautiful day, the sea is absolutely beautiful. So part of the life coaching is to bring people out on the sea if they want to, or is there two separate businesses?
Well, no, it's one business, but like I said, we have a home that's out on the Long Island Sound in Connecticut, and it's set up really to also bring people to the water. So I have an office there. So it was like twofold. We can conduct business out on the boat, or we can, go to a beautiful view room, which I had, set up in my home. But, there was one thing I wanted to comment before when you had asked about the journey. And this comment was, when you do that kind of work, you also have to look within to see what are the things that I can do to improve my own character.
Always.
Right. So I do take you through that process in my story. There were things I didn't like about myself, and I felt like I couldn't find love unless I kind of cleaned the slate for certain things. And I think that's an important message too, to not give up hope for yourself, that you could always make improvements.
Change and become a better person.
Correct.
And you invite the reader to explore that ability to look within and maybe change things. Is that what you're saying now? I think that's a beautiful thing.
It is. And, along the lines of philanthropy, my intention wholeheartedly is, I have another book ready well, not
Great.
ready, but it's getting ready. And so the proceeds from the movie and from the book and from any of my work going forward is going to offer me the opportunity not just to give the gift of time, but also to give the gift of writing that check to these causes that I believe in.
Or giving a percentage of proceeds
Correct.
of the book sales or movie sales to a favorite charity. And along the lines of taking people out on the water, I wanted to mention to our listeners that there is a charity called Sailing Heals, and I have a number of friends involved. It's a beautiful charity, and what Sailing Heals does, that's Sailing Heals, they take cancer patients out on the seas, and the people involved, the people who own the boats and the people who the sailors, they take people out, and it's a form of therapy, and they operate in 22 different ports in the United States. And I think this is something that I thought was just so beautiful, and I thought I would bring it up because you have a boat, and I thought if you'd like, I could try to connect you and your husband to Sailing Heals.
Would love that.
And you might find people, like-minded people who are involved in helping the community at large, and you're doing great things with your book, the message of your book, the message of your life coaching, and this would be adding another dimension, which would be fascinating. And we are here all to work together and try to find new ways to make this world better. And right now, in the middle of this pandemic, it's very difficult for so many people because there are so many challenges that most of us have never had before. And with so many millions of Americans, at one point we had 38 million Americans out of work, as you know, and people on bread lines and, well, not quite bread lines, but food pantry lines, and all the hardship of people losing jobs. And so to write a book that gives people hope, and then to do the life coaching, which is also helping people during this very difficult time, is all very special. And then just to hear the story of your life and how your grandmother was so instrumental, and then a complete stranger, and then your husband who's sort of come into your life at this age, which is so nice and brings hope to so many different people. And now, moving forward, what is this new book about?
The new book is really a continuation of where I leave you off here. And, life throws a lot of curveballs. And at the end,
sure does.
in the epilogue, I explained that 3 months after I was married, I was diagnosed with a pituitary brain tumor. And so I had
very
surgery.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. But that's the irony. Here's this fairy tale story, right? And I close and people are like, oh, I didn't want it to end because it was such a happy ending. And it continues on. It is still a happy ending because I could have been in that situation without my husband, right? And that would have been very different. So it's called Cushing's disease, and it is probably something that I will hopefully be an advocate for other people that are going through that. And again, it's about not losing hope, because this is what, we have to go and find that place within us and know that there will be people that will come and help you. And, there's a chapter in there called All Saints Day, and I quote Saint Teresa, Mother Teresa. I had a very interesting thing happen to me, and she was being interviewed, and I caught the interview, and the interviewer had asked her, how do you do what you do? And she said, there are those that can and those that can't, and I can. And I kind of taken that philosophy that if I can, I will. And if it means, I had a friend, 82 years old. Her son was taking care of her. He died during this pandemic, and she had no one to feed her. So I set up the pea pod, and
Lovely.
And it's just, if you can, you have to. It's just,
I agree. When you have the wherewithal to be of help to other people, it's not a question of, well, should I? You just have to. And I absolutely think you should write that second book, because I think it will give a lot of hope to people who might be going through something similar to what you're going through now, and I'm sorry you've had to go through this, but you know, you write a good book.
Thank you.
And you've gotten all these awards, and I have a feeling you're going to write a second book, and then a third book, and then a fourth book, and even if they don't become movies, the fact that you're writing something to help other people, it's a God-given gift. It's a great gift, and I would only just encourage you to keep doing this, because there's a path carved out for you, and you're following that path.
That's right.
And I know you believe that God has done this for you, and of course not everybody watching this show believes in a God, and I'm not here to convince anybody of anything, but maybe if they read your book, they may feel differently. I don't know, but you have a message of hope, and I think that's really what your book is all about.
I have dear friends of all faiths, and we have we have a soulful connection, and I believe God comes in the form that you believe in. So if it's Buddhist, if you're Hindu, if you're a Catholic, it doesn't matter. To me, it goes back to believing in love and doing the right thing for others. If you can, do it, and accept the good gifts that come when you can't, and so, you know, hopefully that all the people that read the book feel inspired in more than one way, you know.
Yes, and I believe that everyone on this planet is entitled to worship as he or she so chooses to worship. Sure. And regardless of the religion. And so I think most people feel that way. And I ultimately believe we're all worshiping the same Almighty or Divine. Whatever. But again, there are people that just believe that we're here and then we die and that's the end. And I'm not here to convince anyone of anything else.
But there's some fun miracles.
Miracles do happen, I believe. Happen. But again, not everyone believes that.
They're fun to believe in. And it's uplifting. In my book, there's some fun, silly stuff that goes on when I teach little kids, and I just love the reaction. You know, is it magic? I don't know. You know, there's that thin veil between here and we don't know where, right? And we don't know, but I like to believe, like that little girl, you know, that there's something really special.
Yes, and what do you see yourself doing, say, 10 years from now or 20 years from now? Do you ever look ahead?
Absolutely, sure.
And have you seen a path, or?
I believe that, you know, I'm definitely going to be out there serving in some way. I would like to have my own foundation as things progress. I believe,
charitable foundation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great.
Oh, yes. I was involved in the Ms. Foundation. I was the first one to execute that, and that was a Gloria Steinem initial initiative where you take your kids to work, but it started out take your daughter to work, to influence the young people, to give them opportunity to see what jobs are out there. And I love youth development, and I've always seemed to gravitate towards young people and even college age kids, where I give them, you know, great stories on how you take to chance, or how you have to kind of be quiet and lay low for a little while, and also build their self-esteem, which I think is very much needed today, regardless of gender. You know, that people should feel good about who they are.
No question. Believing in yourself is so incredibly important. If you don't believe in yourself, it's very hard to achieve.
So I see something molding in that, or, you know, latching on to something that's very powerful right now or needs help, because I was a marketing person, so I take things from good to great, and I would love to help any organization do that, you know, that feels, you know, the same way I do too, towards the self-esteem and youth development and stuff.
And I have a feeling if you continue writing and you remain as a life coach and get more involved in some of the philanthropic work you were doing earlier, you are going to create a platform for yourself that will enable you to do much more. And you're on your journey.
Right. I'm a working philanthropist.
I love it, right? And as our viewers know, very often I say we can all be philanthropists. And how do we do that? Well, we can give our time, our knowledge, and then if we have resources, we absolutely must give our resources, because right now there is so much suffering, especially because of this pandemic. And so getting back to our guest, Geraldine, we have just a little bit over 1 minute. What would you like to leave with the audience? If you could leave them with 3 different points, what would they be?
I kind of like the 3 points that I was given, but I love that innocence. Don't lose the innocence and the playfulness, because I know people are suffering, but you can be uplifting in a very small way. And I had an interesting, funny, quick little story. I was doing laundry, believe it or not, and I heard a cha-chink, cha-chink inside the dryer. And my thoughts at that time was, I really want to do something big. I don't want to do something small. I want to do something big. And when I came and opened up the dryer, I found a little penny. It was shrunk. And on the penny, it says, "In God we trust." But my message to me, the way I looked at it, was that you have to start small and you can grow into something big. And so I think that's really my message. You don't have to come off the gate big. And I'm working towards it. It's been 30 years and I continue to work towards it, and I love that.
Geraldine, I can't let you go until you tell me who you want to play you in your movie.
Jean, I'm not supposed to be talking about these things right now, but okay, so my husband and I have this big dream plan. We thought maybe we should have Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston play us because, of their situation. Now they're both single and they're both in their 50s, and who knows, but there's going to be a young Geraldine and an older Geraldine. So I like Shailene Woodley. She's lovely. Or Drew Barrymore. We have quite a few, but that would be the ultimate if we could bring those 2 back to the screen. What do you think of that?
And together would be phenomenal. And playing your story, I love it. Geraldine, thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope I see you soon.
Thank you, Jean, for having me here. I really enjoyed my time.
This concludes Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff, and I'll see you next week.